My situation wasn't good, though. My head was swimming. Deep, ragged gasps heaved through my chest, and each breath was accompanied by an agony of pain in my side. The stinging in my mouth as the air passed over them let me know that empty voids filled the sockets where some of my teeth used to be. On the bright side, as pained as they were, my limbs seemed unbroken. Of course, what I should do with them seemed an open question. From the texture and feel of what was in front of me, and my remarkable journey here, I could only assume I had fallen into some sort of cave system, and by some twist of fate over long millennia, water had eroded a meandering path through the rock, so that rather than falling down a straight shaft, I had instead bounced back and forth until now I got to hang off a stalagmite on a ledge, God knows how far down. Of course, this saving grace was also my doom, as the action of the water had smoothed the walls I could feel in front of me, leaving no hand or footholds to latch onto. Climbing such a surface without pitons or harness would be suicide. And yet I must. Either up or down, I cannot stay here. My arms will eventually tire, and then I will fall anyways. So I must decide. Up or down. It occurred to me that everything would be easier if I could see. I had put together a wilderness survival kit in my backpack that had a flashlight in it. I pulled myself upwards, and after a bit of kicking, managed to swing one of my legs up and around the stalagmite, straddling it. I could now relax my arms and hang limply for a moment, savoring the blessed moment of rest from my exertions. I shrugged the heavy canvas backpack off my shoulders, and yelping as my side throbbed painfully, I swung the pack around and fished inside, locating the now dented aluminum mess kit that contained my survival kit. I pried it open and located the flashlight. It was an unusual one, a hand-pumped dynamo charged an internal capacitor instead of a battery. As long as you were willing to pump the handle 30 times every couple minutes, you never had to worry about the batteries going dead. I flicked it on and was astonished at the sight that greeted me. A kaleidoscope of color reflected back at me from the millions of tiny crystals embedded in the wall, blinding me momentarily. I was most definitely in a cave complex. The sheer, smooth wall in front of me offered no handhold or purchase. The walls were too far apart for me to brace myself against, and I had only my Swiss Army knife to chisel into the wall. Go down then, and hope that there is another exit to the cave somewhere. Wait. If I go more underground, I can't use my phone. Wait! I have a phone! For a moment I had been so focused on getting myself out of trouble, I had forgotten I could call someone for help. I yanked my phone out of my jacket pocket, and my heart sank. A thick spiderweb of cracks ran through the screen. It would not respond to my frantic prodding on the buttons. Well, that settles it, then. I would do my best to travel to the bottom of this shaft. If there was another entrance to this place, I would find it and live. If there was not, I would die. As far as I could tell, there were no other options. I would have to marshal all my resources to reach the bottom of this pit alive. As such, I would take this moment to rest and inventory everything I had that I could possibly use to control my descent. I had the bag itself and its straps, a small length of cordage, a tiny spool of fishing line. I had my clothes, my shoelaces, a couple orange trash bags. I had a trowel, a steel gold pan painted black, a small sample bottle. This was not encouraging. I had a ferrocium rod and some matches, a bag of cookies, a metal water bottle, my flashlight, and a Swiss Army knife. Frustrated by the lack of decent kit, I turned again to examining the cave itself. There were no proper handholds, but there were formations of stalactites and stalagmites, and some of them were not very large either. I tied my flashlight to my wrist, using a bit of cordage, and, Bracing myself between the stalagmite and the wall, reached upward to grab the thin end of a small stalactite and snap it off. I leaned over the edge and saw a rocky shelf just below the one I was on. It was smooth and angled, with a large stalagmite erupting from the bottom and a thin edge of blackness between the side of my current shelf and the one below me. I dropped the piece of stalactite, aiming for the blackness below. It hit the edge of the lower shelf and bounced off, ricocheted off the cave wall, and then silence. I counted the seconds. 1, 2, 3, splash. Wait, splash? A pool of water. That could not form on the sides of this shaft. I must be near the bottom. If my memory served me right, though, the speed of gravity was 9.81 meters per second squared, which means, 30, 40 meters at least? A long way to fall. I vaguely estimated a meter to be the span between my arms, more or less. How much rope did I have? I began measuring it length by length. Assuming it could even hold my weight, how much of that could I cut down? Presuming I could somehow lasso that stalagmite, I could slowly lower myself down the shaft to the very end and free fall from there. 15 lengths, so 15 meters more or less. If you take a couple meters out for the lasso, then I'm falling 20 to 30 meters. Still, a hell of a lot better than it was. I tied a loop into the rope and then began trying to lasso the stalagmite. It took some doing, but on the 10th attempt, I made it. I emptied my bag of cookies and sealed my flashlight inside the Ziploc bag, and then used the orange garbage bags to stuff as many of my possessions as possible inside before shoving the entire thing back into my pack. I then unspooled the fishing line and threaded it through my belt loops before tying it off and tying the other end to the strap of my pack. I slowly lowered my pack into the dark below. I was pretty sure I had enough line to reach the bottom, and sure enough, before long I felt the line go limp. Relieving myself of as much weight as possible was important. After all, the rope I had with me wasn't climbing rope. I had to maximize the odds of it holding. I threaded the rope through my belt loops and tied it off. I cut strips off my jeans at the bottom and did a kind of improvised wrap around my hands to prevent friction burns. My preparations, such as they were, had been made. There's a very good chance I'm about to die now. Lord, I've had a pretty pathetic life, and I can't imagine I'm particularly important to you. But I could really use a hand right now, and thanks for the good times, I guess. With that out of the way, it was time to jump. Tally-ho, lads! I had a moment to contemplate the silliness of my probable last words before I set feet out to meet the wall, but as the wall was smooth and angled, my feet hit first and slid off, allowing my hip to painfully whack against the side of the cave. I swung out into the void, the thin cord burning through my hands quickly, far too quickly. Even with my hand wraps, I could feel the searing heat in my palms. Twang! I reached the end of my rope and felt a painful jolt around my waist as gravity tried to fold my body in half backwards. Only my death grip on the rope prevented that from happening. It was time to drop. I pulled the Swiss Army knife from my pocket and reached as high as I could to cut the cord. I sliced through and fell. Splash! I hit feet first, shooting down through the water until my feet hit the ground and nearly slammed my butt into the floor. Fortunately, the water slowed my descent sufficiently that my bum plopped down without incident. I gathered my legs under me and pushed off towards the surface, swimming upward. I broke the surface and breathed again. I started treading water. First things first, though, I need to close that knife blade and put it back in my pocket before I lose it or slash myself to the bone. There! I pulled my plastic bag flashlight out of my pocket and began a survey of the area. I was in a deep pool, perhaps 30 feet across. On one side, I could only see a low-hanging wall that sloped down into the water. On the other side, there was a smooth shoreline, with a forest of stalactites off beyond it. I swam for shore and pulled myself onto the solid ground. I felt at the fishing line around my waist and slowly pulled, dragging my pack out of the water and onto the stone beside me. I had all my equipment. There was nothing else that needed to be done right now. I was safe. Finally safe. I laid on the barren rock and let exhaustion claim me. My thoughts faded to nothingness as I slept, darkness deeper than night.